Okay, well, hi. My name is Michaela Harris, and I am doing my project over the Flint water crisis in Flint, Michigan. The background on this situation is that the Michigan city officials back in April of 2014 decided to switch the city's water supply. At the moment in time, they were receiving water from Detroit's water system, but however, the officials thought it would be more cost effective to receive water from the Flint River. However, soon after these changes were made, the residents of the community began to complain of the water's odor, color, and taste, and even reported rashes from consuming this water. After these reports were made, the water was tested for bacteria such as chloroform, and it actually came back positive for chloroform bacteria. City officials then advised a boil water advisory, which is basically make sure before you cook anything in this water, or you drink the water, or you bathe in the water, make sure that you boil it. And then they actually went to state that the Flint water is safe to drink. However, within the same year, General Motors, also known as GM, their plants in Flint, Michigan, actually stopped using the Flint water system because it was starting to corrode the car parts. So just think about that. They were letting the citizens actually drink water that was actually corroding car parts. And we know that car parts are extremely durable, but for something to corrode it, it has to be really, really, really strong and very corrosive. This is just a picture of side by side of the Detroit water versus the Flint water. As you can see, the Detroit water is actually what the majority of our water looks like, which is pretty much clear. And you really, honestly, there shouldn't be any bacteria or anything like that in it. But here's the water in Flint, and as you can tell, it looks like kind of like watered down orange juice. So either way, the fact that they were letting their citizens drink this and it doesn't even look like water at all is very scary and very disappointing. All the city officials, including Governor Snyder, were downplaying this whole entire water issue, and they were saying that it wasn't an imminent threat, even though two of the Department of Environmental Quality water experts saying that there was possibly high levels of lead in the water system, and that the way that the city was actually testing for it could have been underestimating the amount of lead that was actually in the water. But if you go back to the picture that I showed you before and you see Detroit's water versus Flint water, there definitely was some type of issue going on with how they were measuring for lead, because this definitely does not look like drinking water at all. Like I said before, it really honestly looks like watered down orange juice. Even a woman by the name of Leanne Walters was gracious enough to open up her home to have it inspected by the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. And they stated that she had 104 parts per billion of lead that was detected in her drinking water. The EPA states that if there's over 15 parts per billion of lead, that there has to be some type of action that's gonna go on to decrease the amount. If that amount of lead is found in just one person's home, just imagine how much lead is in other people's home and throughout this whole entire community. Where we are today, well, they had a state of emergency, but it wasn't made until December of 2015. Mind you, this whole entire water crisis has been going on since April of 2014. So a whole year and a half went by before anybody did anything about it. FEMA has provided approximately $5 million worth of aid to the city and surrounding areas. And the city has now been reconnected with the Detroit water supply, and the systems have been advised to not drink, cook, or bathe using this water. And I would hope so, but it's kind of a little too late for that. The emergency response, well, the emergency response really didn't come until December of 2015. Local responses were the American Red Cross, the Michigan State University College of Human Medicine, Hurley Children's Hospital, Genesee County Health Department, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and those are all local. The state emergency response team included the Michigan Emergency Operations Center, the Flint Water Interagency Coordinating Committee, and the Michigan Army National Guard, and they were actually helping the American Red Cross. With federal, FEMA was involved, the Public Health Service Commission Corps were involved, the Office of Preparedness and Response, the Small Business Administration, the EPA, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and also the Department of Agriculture. The cost to fix the whole entire water infrastructure in Flint, Michigan is going to cost them approximately $1.5 billion to fix it. I didn't include the medical costs because they were kind of putting that within a 10 to 15 year margin of how much it would possibly cost because children have been exposed to all this lead. But as far as for the water infrastructure, it's going to cost $1.5 billion to fix it. Partnerships, they have been fundraising a campaign to raise $100 million in the span of 10 to 15 years by United Way for future medical treatment for children that were exposed. The Michigan House Appropriations Committee passed a bill where Flint was given an additional $28 million for bottled water, more school nurses, and filters. President Obama gave a $80 million loan to Michigan for infrastructure repairs. However, there's not really an exact number on how much is being used in Flint because, as you could tell, it's actually for the state of Michigan and not just for Flint. The state gave Flint a $2 million grant that will go towards replacing lead service lines, and the Union Labor Life Insurance Company donated $25 million for lead pipe replacements in the city. The most vulnerable population in this scenario is the children. They can end up having seizures, decreased brain function, and an increased risk for ADD because of their exposure to lead. Morbidity and mortality. As far as yesterday and a couple weeks ago, from what I have seen in research, 6,000 to 12,000 children have been exposed to lead. However, no deaths have been reported so far. The ethical dilemma with this whole entire Flint water crisis is the fact that the city and state officials didn't act accordingly or act fast enough, pretty much because Flint has a higher population of African Americans and also a higher population of poverty. Honestly, a lot of people feel as though if it was a middle-class white suburban neighborhood, they would have gotten treated a lot faster. But since they were African Americans, and not only were they African Americans, but they were also poverty-stricken as well, it made it seem as if, oh, okay, well, they're already poor anyway, so it doesn't matter. Just the fact that they didn't act quickly enough to resolve the issue and that they waited until the amount of lead in the water had reached an astronomical amount pretty much showed how much the city officials and state officials actually cared about this community. And also the fact that 6,000 to 12,000 children have been exposed to lead has been a very, very, very big issue as well. Because, you know, these kids can end up having seizures. They can end up having decreased brain function. They can end up, you know, being fatal, and they can end up passing away from it. And it also increases the risk for them having ADD. Social media. Well, I know that we learned that most of the time social media is not necessarily a good thing because it can cause panic in a lot of these situations and a lot of these crises and these natural disasters. However, honestly, for Flint, Michigan, it's helped a lot, and it's shed a lot of light on the situation, because I don't really think a lot of people, except for the people that were actually living in Michigan, knew what was going on. I don't think anyone outside of Michigan really understood what was going on with the situation, because this has all been happening since April of 2014. And honestly, it really didn't hit the media outlets until they declared a state of emergency. And then they all started looking back at, okay, how did this happen? And why did it take forever for the officials to decide to declare a state of emergency for this town, when obviously there's some type of funky stuff going on with the water, because they were getting it from the river and not from Detroit's system at that time. So I feel like that it made a lot more people aware of what was going on in Flint, Michigan. And now celebrities such as Meek Mill and Cher and President Obama and a lot of other celebrities have been pitching in their hands, and they've been asking their fans, you know, if they could please donate, no matter how much money they donate, or even like just bottles of water, of clean water, if they could please just do that and just send it up to Flint, that would be wonderful. So I feel like the social media has definitely helped out the citizens of Flint, because now the water crisis that was kind of just being held only in Flint, and that really only people in Flint and maybe the surrounding areas knew about, now the whole entire country knows, and we're trying to help them as much as possible. I just honestly wish that the city officials would have acted accordingly and acted a little bit quicker, so it wouldn't have got as bad as it did, because now they have billions of dollars in infrastructure repairs that they have to do. And that's not even including probably the millions of dollars, maybe to even billions of dollars they're going to have to spend for medical treatment, maybe 10 to 15 years down the line when these children get a little bit older. Bibliography, I used an article that is called Events That Led to the Flint Water Crisis, and it was a New York Times article. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.